Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to call this quorum court to order. The purpose of this meeting is to work on items pertaining to the 2017 budget process. The prayer and the pledge is going to be handled by J.P. Ann Harbison. J.P. Harbison.
Dear Lord, bless and guide our President-elect. Bless and guide our new county judge-elect. Give the Quorum Court the courage to do what is right. I ask all of these things in thy name, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, J.P. Harbison. Carly, would you call the roll, please?
Daniel Balls. Harvey Bowman. Yay. Rick Cochran.
Here.
Robert Dennis.
Here.
Lisa Ecke. Ann Harbison. Sharon Lloyd. Here. Tom Lundstrom.
Here.
Eva Madison. Sue Madison. Joel Maxwell. Gary McHenry.
Here.
Joe Patterson. Butch Pond.
Here.
Bill Ussery.
Quorum present. Thank you. The next thing you have is the adoption of the agenda that you have before you. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Do I have a second? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The next thing now, I always explain this because this is a little different procedure, but we will have citizens' comments the first 15 minutes of the evening. Each person will be allowed to speak 3 minutes, and if you go over your 3 minutes, I just will let you know that your time is up. So what I will do is we will time this for 15 minutes. Whoever wants to speak will come to the podium. You'll identify yourself, and you will speak for 3 minutes. So who wants to be first?
Hello, I'm Carl Holm. I'm a 4-H member, and in 2013, I was awarded the President's Silver Medal of Volunteering, which you have to do so many hours for different levels of the awards. Mine was get over 100 hours of volunteering, I believe, and I believe it's very important. With 4-H, unlike FFA, we do a lot of volunteering. And that's very important for us to grow up and learn respect for our community and keep Arkansas clean because we are the natural state. So if we don't have that certain amount of respect for where we live and stuff, I believe that personally we won't have a better future. And this is from the 4-H website. It is highly regarded, quote, highly regarded as the first ever research project of its kind, the 4-H study of positive youth development defined the measure of positive youth development compared to their peers. The report shows that youth involved in 4-H programs excel in several areas. And that is all I have to say.
Thank you so much for your time.
Hi, my name is Zoe Armstrong. I am 15 years old and in the 10th grade at Fayetteville High School. But tonight I would like to tell you about a person who has inspired me throughout my years of 4-H. Her name is Lauren Cheevers. She's my cousin. Lauren began her 4-H career as she was 5 years old. She is now completing her 3 years at the U of A, and she will be graduating with a degree in agriculture communications. During her years in 4-H, she held several offices in our local and county clubs. She was a county and state ambassador and Ozark District Vice President. Along with showing cattle at the county and state fairs, she was on the Beef Quiz Bowl horse judging team and the parliamentary team. She went to nationals with her horse judging team. She also gave a speech at nationals on Coggins papers and the horses winning first place. Lauren was able to use her experiences with her 4-H career and other activities to write her resumes to go into college. With her 4-H and other scholarships, Lauren received over $80,000 for her college. I feel the time and assistance and encouragement she received through this would help us and benefit our future 4-Hers. No matter what, at this time we do not have a full-time agent, and we would like to have one. It helped me see that no matter what people can do or how they are, they can get through anything and they can make their way to college, no matter what, with 4-H. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam Judge and Quorum Court members, thank you for your time tonight. My name is Ken Canese. I'm a 4-H Foundation president for the Foundation Board, and I've been affiliated with 4-H in one way or another for probably over 30 years. And I've got the hair to prove it up here. So this group of young people, as many of you know, represent the county today, but they'll represent Washington County for a long time to come. And I can tell you for sure that what we're asking for is an investment in not just my future, your future, but all of Washington County, because a lot of these young people will either stay here or leave and come back and represent us like the kind of citizens we all want. They're going to bring the work ethic. They're going to bring the knowledge. They're going to bring the ability to speak to leaders and influence people back to this community and the communities they serve. And I just wanted to just ask for your support in helping us not add but gain back a staff member that the extension sorely needs. That person is going to dedicate a lot of their time to 4-H youth. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ken.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Gardner, Vice President of the Washington County Council 4-H. I'm a 16-year-old junior at Fayetteville High School and a 9-year member of Washington County 4-H. My projects include citizenship, public speaking, and leadership. Because of 4-H, I have developed my own community service project entitled Flag Etiquette and the Gestures of Patriotism, through which I have volunteered over 1,000 hours volunteering for veterans and over 1,500 hours volunteering in general. I have educated over 10,000 Arkansans about flag etiquette, citizenship, patriotism, and honoring our veterans. Volunteering for veterans has shown me a window into the hearts and souls of our America's greatest heroes who are willing to sacrifice their lives for love of something greater than themselves, allowing me to discover my passion for servant leadership and, like many of you, a strong desire not only to create change, but to make a difference. I cannot imagine my life without the experience of getting to know countless veterans, heroes who fought for my freedom, granting me the opportunity to stand here before you tonight. When I was 8 years old, I met Senator John Bozeman at the Fayetteville Veterans Hospital. At the time, he was our congressman, and he came up to me afterwards after I spoke about flag etiquette, and he told me that next to church, 4-H is the best program for youth to be involved in. This past week, I saw him when I spoke at the Arkansas Military Hall of Fame banquet, and we both reminisced on the first time that we met over 8 years ago. Because of 4-H, there have been countless public speaking opportunities, including the 2016 Arkansas State Republican Convention, the Fayetteville National Cemetery Memorial Day ceremonies, or many ceremonies at the Fayetteville Veterans Hospital. Every time I speak, I learn and I grow. Last week, I coordinated a Veterans Day assembly at Fayetteville High School. 4-H has shown me my career path in political science. I plan to major in political science with a minor in Spanish and then attend law school. It has shown me what I am capable of, and what I want to accomplish. 4-H has contributed to my success. At Fayetteville High School, one of the largest 7A schools in the state, I am ranked #1 in my class and am the vice president of my class of over 700 students. I'm a member of the Fayetteville Chamber of Commerce Teen Leadership Experience and president-elect for the Arkansas State Children of the American Revolution. Last week, I submitted my entry for the Veterans Foreign Awards Voice of Democracy competition. I'm a 4-time winner at state and national youth public speaking contests, and I'm a member of the high school debate team. 4-H has opened doors that I might have never otherwise approached, exposing my passion for leadership and serving others. It has shown me the leader I want to become. It has shown me I am passionate, driven, responsible, teachable, and visionary. 4-H has made me the person who I am today. It plays a critical role in building future leaders and often opportunities like no other organization. Funding this position is vital for youth development in Washington County, the great state of Arkansas, and the U.S. of America. Today we are 4-H members, but more importantly, we are the leaders of tomorrow. We are the future, and we need your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm Scout Jennings. I'm 7 years old. I'm in second grade, and I go to Washington Elementary. And I've been enrolled, and I've done 4-H since I was about 5 years old, and I've been doing it for about almost 3 years now. And we've learned safety and lots of other things. And can I please have your vote for support for the Washington County 4-H?
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ken Stout, and I'm president of the Winslow Community Development Council, which is a private group of Winslow citizens who try to improve the life of the citizenry in Winslow. And we fund, in very small part, 4-H and other organizations. We give some money from the benefits from the Winslow Run each year. So I wanted to speak to not so much the 4-H per se, but the Master Gardener program, which has such a ripple effect in communities. And I just wanted to say that the way it is now with the funding not being there for the 4-H person, for the Extension Service, it takes away a lot of the opportunities that we have through Master Gardeners. And that's a program that has an immense effect, besides 4-H, on the whole community. So I hope you consider the ripple effect that that does, and it's bigger than just that position. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Lily Davis, and I go to Hogeye 4-H. I live on a dairy farm. I am 11 years old, and I go to Prairie Grove schools. 4-H has helped me to learn responsibility and to interact in my community. Please help us fund a 4-H agent.
Thank you. You're short. Why don't you go ahead and pull the chair out and sit down so we can get you into the mic? I'm sorry. There.
Hi, my name is Kaylee White, and I'm with the Westford 4-H Club. I am 11 years old, and I'm going on my 3rd year in 4-H. 4-H has changed my life completely. My new favorite thing is recycling. I competed in County-O-Rama, and I got first place in that for environmental stewardship. And then I went on to district, and district was so much fun. And I won 2nd place, and that just got me started. Community service is one of my favorite things now. Whenever we plan our recycling jobs, because we volunteer at the West Fork Recycling Center, and I will be like the first one to sign up for that. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Lily Mosley. I am 9 years old and a member of the Greenland 4-H Club. I have loved getting to be in 4-H. Because of 4-H, I have been able to give speeches at County-O-Ramas about home safety and pet care in front of a room full of people. I'm learning how to be a good speaker and have more confidence. I really love making crafts for the fair at our club meetings and winning ribbons. I'm thankful that I get to be in 4-H, and I want to be in it for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is David Mosley. I'm currently a full-time employee for the university, but I'm also a PhD student, which I hope to graduate in about a year and a half. But the reason I wanted to talk was because in 2007, I was the 4-H agent in Logan County. And as the 4-H agent, I was hired to be almost full 4-H. And I tell you, even though I was almost full 4-H, there's still more work to do. I even had help with an assistant. Some of the other agents helped. There's not enough time even for a full 4-H agent. So without one, you can imagine what we're missing. Some of the things I was able to do is start a garden club at each elementary school. I built a raised bed, and I was able to go in once a month and do class sessions for the kids at the school. And as I heard some of the kids say, one of them said that, you know, this is more fun than Six Flags, which I didn't really, it's hard to believe that it's more fun than Six Flags, but I know for sure he was having fun. So if he's having fun, I know he's learning. And as one of them said, this broccoli is just like what we get at Walmart. So I said, yeah, how do you think they get it at Walmart? We have to grow it first. So this was education to them that they had no idea how this stuff works. And I also was able to start a shooting sports club where Logan County never had shooting sports before. And we started from the scratch. And about a couple years ago, we had about the same kids that started in about 2008. They were entering into the Junior Olympics for shooting sports, and we started from scratch. And you know, those things can happen if someone's just given about 10% of their time to 4-H. It can't happen. We can't start new clubs. We can just get by with what we have. And also, I was able to seek out students to try to teach leadership and speaking opportunities in which, you know, some of my 4-Hers got full scholarships, like you heard. There's plenty of money out there. But it's hard to reach those kids if we don't have the time to go out and reach them. So that's just a little bit of experience from me about 4-H. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, good evening. My name is, am I loud enough?
Why don't you just sit down at the mic,
All right, I'm
please?
sitting down. Okay, hi. Is it better?
Better.
Okay, my name is Kelby Biswell. I'm the president of the West Fork 4-H Club, and I'm a member of 2 other clubs, the Ambassadors and the County Council. I've been in 4-H since I was 5 or 6, so I've been in it my whole life. I've never known anything other than having a meeting every month and doing community service, and I can just say it's personally changed my life, and this is my last year in it, so I'm trying to make it as good as I can for the people behind me, because I have sisters. One was just born this year, and I know that they're going to be in 4-H, and I want the program to continue, and I want it to grow. And my main project is gardening and horticulture, and that is my passion. I just got accepted to the U of A on Friday, and I know what I want to do because of 4-H. And I started out with a participation ribbon at county level, and now I know what I want to do, and I know that I want to impact people in the same way that our county extension agent Anna has. She's inspired me, and she makes time even when she doesn't have it, and she stays up late, and she just works really hard for us. And I've gotten the full 4-H experience, and I feel like as my last year I want to make as much difference as I can. So I hope you guys just consider this, because it's an amazing experience, and I don't know where I would be without 4-H. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is our full 15 minutes. I know there was a lot of people that would speak. I totally understand what you're talking about. I do appreciate all of your effort. We've had some really good presentations. It does me good to see our young people be able to come forth and do something like this, and I know they received that training. So again, I'm going to have to stop it because we've got a busy meeting, but I want to thank each and every one of you for participating and helping us with this. Again, thank you very much. Next thing we have on the agenda is salary increases for ungraded positions. Ashley, would you?
In your agenda packet, 6.1, at the last meeting, it was asked that Blair review the salaries for the ungraded employees and give them a raise increase. And so the attachment shows the increase that he recommends based off of market value. And it's already included in the updated amounts for the budget.
Do you have any questions for Ms. Farber? J.P. Harbison?
I move that we pass the salary increases presented to the upgraded employees that were not under the other program. This has been reviewed. It's at market value, and those that were a little bit over market value were given the 5%. I think this is fair. It's what we did for the other employees in the county, so I move that we pass this. Thank you.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? J.P. Dennis.
Thank you, Madam Judge. Just looking at it, I know technology is so important, but that's a large salary when you compare that to county attorney, to other things. It just seems high to me. Just want to express that because, why sit here and say, I like it and vote for it. I want to give raises, but at the same time, that one seems high. Thank you.
J.P. Madison.
I have one question and then one point to make. I don't know which one we're recommending. I don't know what, because I see options on 6.1.
I added the options because that's what we had last time, and you can do whatever you want. Blair's recommendation is the column that says 2017 recommended percentage raise per market and time and position. So that is the raise that he's recommending. The next column would be what their salary would be, and then the column that I outlined within the box, that would be the additional appropriation that was made to the 2017 budget.
Okay. So the motion is then that 2017 recommended percentage raise per market and time and position.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I share JP Dennis's concerns because we now are going to have a county employee that's going to be making more than our county judge. I have a problem with that. This person will be making more than our new incoming tax collector, more than our incoming county judge. So I would make a motion to amend the motion to cap the increases, cap any county employee's salary at the lowest paid county elected official.
Second. I have a motion and a second. J.P. Harbison.
This is market value. It doesn't have anything to do with the individual. We went with market value for everyone else. So, IT people, technology people, this is what they're getting in the community. Because of that, I think we need to stay at market value. I see your point that it's increase, it's more, but that's what the community has put the value at. We didn't put the value there. It's the market put the value there. Thank you.
Can I mention one thing?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
I want to point out that some of these employees were over market value. Some of them were a little bit under, but we treated them as all of the other employee raises. And if they did not meet up to the 5%, we went ahead and gave them the base 5%. So.
Yeah, go ahead and ask her.
Well, then I think we need to know which ones this is not reflective of market, because I'm concerned that the legislature established what the county's market is to some extent. I just think for as hard as people work to get elected to positions in Washington County, for them to come in and have people working for them that are paid more, I think that's counterintuitive. And we're not talking a huge difference. Some of this is symbolic, but at the same time, if these are not all reflective of market, then I think we need to know that, because J.P. Harbison's comments were based on the fact that this was market. If it's not, we need to know that.
As you can see on the base salary adjustment per market column, that is what the market is recommending for the positions. And then the raise is what we did, the flat bottom amount raise that was recommended for county employees. So for the first one, technology director, he's underpaid by a 1% or so. So we went ahead and gave him the 5% base, as we treated all employees as recommended by the Quorum Court. And then the next one would be the veterinarian.
So our veterinarian is already paid above market?
Correct.
Okay.
And then the next one would be the law clerk.
Already paid above market?
Mm-hmm.
$10,000.
And this is just recommendation from Blair that was requested of him, which is why I put the optionals on the side of the percentage raises if you would like to go a different route for you to see those amounts.
Well, that's a lot to think about, but I'll stick with my motion, my amendment right now.
Okay, we have an amendment. Ann, did you make the motion?
Yes,
So now, she's making,
It's got to be, it would have to be voted on, Judge, without the mover accepting it as a friendly. And she's indicated she won't.
I do have a question, though. I have a question.
go ahead and ask Ashley, that's fine.
Okay, in the column, you've got 2016 base salary included in 2017 budget in that column. All right, so we've got 90,211. All right, base salary adjusted per market is 91,208. Correct?
Correct.
All right, so you went on and gave a 5% increase because that's what we did for everybody else.
Exactly.
And that puts that salary at $94,722.
Yes.
So we're looking at, well, a little over, what, $5,000 then above market for that particular position.
Yes, including benefits.
Including benefits, okay. You know, I just think that we need to be fair to everybody. If we work out a system to use, and because someone does a little bit better with that, we've already voted on all of the other county employees, and we did not make any adjustments there. If we had made adjustments, you know, I might be willing to put this at market value and maybe just give him a 1% or 2% raise instead of the 5%. But since we've done this for all other employees, I think that it's only fair that we treat everyone alike. Thank you.
J.P. Cochran.
Thank you, Judge. Okay, I have a question to help me understand
Yes.
this. In your base salary adjusted per market, that is salary only?
Correct.
No benefits included?
Correct.
When you look in the column with the box, the additional appropriation per market, time and position, that includes benefits as
Yes.
well. So essentially, if you look at the column just to the left of that, projected base salary, and compare that to base salary adjusted per market, that is your employee raise. That is what they see before taxes.
Exactly.
Okay, so when I look at the first one, just quick math, it's about $3,500, and I look over in the right-hand boxes of percentages, it's really only about a 3% raise, just above 3%.
Including benefits, yes.
Oh, okay, that includes benefits. All right. So I
It's
haven't got my
just a
calculator.
little over a 1% raise that position would be receiving.
Right.
It's like 1.19 or something.
When we did the other calculation for the employees as a group, for those that were behind the scale, we included factors of time and position, that type of thing. Did we do the same calculation in here? So we treated them in the same fashion?
Yes.
So when we're looking at the next one for the county attorney, we're seeing that they're quite a ways behind market, so that's where you see the difference there. It doesn't take them up to market.
Right.
The market would be 79,924, whereas we're taking them to 76.
Right.
So basically, what I'm saying is this is exactly on par with what we did with the rest of the employee base.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Judge.
Yeah, J.P. Ossery.
I'm going to ask the question I think that several other people are asking. I'm not certain what the base salary is for the incoming guys. I don't have that information in front of me. I should know it, but I don't. So can somebody tell me what that would be?
Yes.
I'm sorry to admit that I don't know that, but and while she's looking that up, I'll have to say that I agree that I think that if nothing else, it's symbolic. That I think that realistically, I don't see why we would have an issue with capping that at a certain amount, because that is a very high amount, and they will still get a raise. It may be a small one, but I think that that's the better part of the right thing to do.
If you do the 80% of the max for 2017, it's 97,825. That's the 80% of the salary for the elected officials. Go ahead.
There's two different tiers, though. There's county judge and sheriff, and then the remaining are different. Because my understanding was there was one that was only going to make in the low 90s when I did the math on it, because I did it when I proposed that tiered structure.
$92,146.
Okay, I knew it was a little lower. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank
now,
you, Ashley.
I think J.P. Pond, you're next.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Blair did the study on this and made recommendations. Ashley, do we have any idea on average about how many hours a week the county attorney's been putting in the last year?
I don't have that information. I want to say all of these employees are exempt employees.
Yes.
So they're paid on a base, pretty much 80-hour week is how we enter them in the system to give them their exempt status based on their salary. So they would have to actually keep up with the log themselves to determine exactly how many hours they're working. They don't actually clock in and clock out.
We don't really have any kind of guesstimate. Maybe George Butler might have some idea of a guesstimate how many hours a week on average the county attorney puts in.
Well, he certainly puts in more than it must be more than an average of 40 hours. He has to work. I'm gonna have to work near as hard now as I did when I was county attorney. I was trying to work nights and weekends, and I know that Steve has to do the same thing.
Hey, George, use the mic there because you've got a soft voice.
I found the job to be, extremely time consuming. I spent a lot of late hours myself during the week, and I was down here a lot on the weekends just because it was quiet and it was time to get things done. I know Steve has had to do the same thing. When you're salaried, and particularly when you're the county attorney, there's some things that just can't wait. And you have to work the number of hours it takes to get the job done.
Well, I've brought it up very many times before, but I can't forget about the time I was able to reach you for advice over the holidays, right before the first of the year. I know you put in a lot of hours, and I know we're talking about other positions besides the county attorney, but that's one of the ones that was brought up. Somehow, and I'm just part-time help, but somehow I got the idea per hour when I'm working for the county, I probably make a considerable amount more money than the county attorney would per hour. That's just me. Anyway, thank you.
We have a motion on the floor, and it came from J.P. Madison. So I think that's the one we're going to have to vote on before we move forward. So is everyone ready to vote on the motion? And would you please state that again, please, J.P. Madison?
Yes, the motion would be to impose a cap on the salary increases to the lowest level paid elected official, which I think Ms. Farber said was
146.
146.
Yes.
Okay, does everyone understand the motion? Any other discussion? Carla, would you call the roll, please?
Eva Madison?
Yes.
Sue Madison?
Yes.
Joe Maxwell?
Yes.
Gary McHenry?
Yes.
Joe Patterson?
Yeah.
Butch Pond?
No.
Bill Ussery?
Yes.
Daniel Balls?
No.
Harvey Bowman?
Yes.
Rick Cochran?
No.
Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Lisa Ecke?
Yes.
Ann Harbison?
No.
Sharon Lloyd?
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom?
Yes.
Yes, okay, the cap has been placed on the salaries, so that is now passed.
That's
the amendment.
That's the amendment.
So now we are ready.
Are we still discussing, though, the pay? Just for discussion's sake, I am not comfortable with lumping everybody together and passing this all together. I don't want to single out any particular group or to diminish their skill or their position here in this county. But I look at a veterinarian, and I brought this up to USDA veterinarian with the PhD, asking them, what does the government pay a USDA agent? Can you let me know? And they did. And I appreciate Dr. Toledo in sharing with me his time. And then when I shared with him what was going on at our animal shelter, he said, oh my goodness, you're kidding me. He said, they don't do anything. They vaccinate and they this and this. He goes, that's easy. That's easy. That's easy. And they're making how much? He goes, can I have that job? So I don't mean to devalue what our vet does, but in comparison to what other veterinarians do that are employed by the government, I think what I would like to do is to single out some of them. And I know we're all looking at IT, we're looking at our county attorney, and we're looking at our veterinarian, but I would like to separate those and look at them, the positions individually, and not lump them all together and vote on a pay increase. I just think that we just need to analyze what are their duties, what exactly do they do, how many hours do they put in on a weekly basis, and evaluate it from our perspective. We appreciate the information that was given to us by Blair Johansson, but it's up to us to filter it and to do what's best for the county. Thank you, Madam Judge.
I do want to make something clear here, and I think there's a misunderstanding if you say that our veterinarian does nothing but vaccinate.
Let me make myself clear. I am not diminishing what they do. They do vaccinate, they do spade, they do neuter, they do microchipping. I understand all of that, but when you put that together on what are your areas of responsibilities, and they're not the director of the animal shelter, but if you're going to pay somebody, I feel that they need to be the director of the shelter and have administrative responsibilities as well. It's just for a discussion, not to diminish, not to embarrass or to berate the veterinarian. This is a discussion. I talked to a USDA veterinarian with PhD, government employee, and trying to figure out what is good for the county. That's all I'm doing. So make myself clear, I'm not against the veterinarians.
Got J.P. Bowman.
Thank you.
J.P. Bowman.
Thank you, Judge. I've not been here for a lot of the other discussion, but I've heard the comment 2 or 3 times that even if people are paid above the market, that they have been given a 5% raise in addition. As far as I'm concerned, that's exaggerating an already exaggerated situation. To go ahead and put another 5% on when they're already paid above the market value. So I'd like to ask for consideration in that regard, because that just moves them further away from market means. Guys, one of the things that I've struggled with ever since I've been on the court, I've always contended that our county employees have a benefit package that's absolutely superior to that out here in the market. I sat in a meeting in Springdale at the state convention of county employees. I heard the president of the association say in the meeting, guys, we don't make fabulous salaries, but we got a fantastic benefits program. And that's something I've not heard in the presentations here in this courtroom, not even once. We've been told that they've been comparable to what's going on in the business community. So I think we've got to go ahead and be sure, if we're going to go ahead and give this kind of raise, that we go ahead and be sure that they're not above market considering the fact that the benefit package, in my opinion, is excellent. Thank you.
I think our attorney needs to, do you want to say something on this before we move forward?
I just wanted to talk about my position, and I'm happy to let the JPs finish their discussion before I do that. But there have been some questions about the county attorney, and I feel like it's incumbent upon me to make a comment about this after everybody has their opportunity.
Okay, J.P. Harbison.
Because the cap and what the cap will be, we don't know. It will be lower. I'm going to make a motion that we table this until later so that we can see the actual figures and not be guessing. I make a motion to table the motion.
Where do we stand on that?
Motion and Harvey second.
So what that's,
It's debatable because there's no time certain.
Okay. Any discussion? J.P. Madison.
We're having this meeting tonight for this purpose. So if we're not going to decide this issue, that we had a meeting and we all are getting paid to be here, then I think we're not fulfilling our duties tonight. We have all the information in front of us. Ms. Farber has given us the exact figure that will serve as the cap. We have all the information. It's not going to change. We need to finish the budget tonight and fulfill the purpose for which this meeting was set. This should not be tabled.
The cap that was set for the motion only affects one employee, which is the IT. Everybody else falls below that. Just kind of wanted to state that.
J.P. Harbison.
Which column is the cap?
Well, it's what was mentioned earlier. The cap of the lowest paid elected official was $92,146. So for the IT director, he's paid $94,722. So he would fall to the cap of that. $92,146.
Okay, is that on this page? Where?
No, it was the motion that was passed earlier.
Well, I know, but it's not, it was not presented. I mean, everybody sat here and figured it.
You have a
And that's
question,
why I made the motion.
J.P. Dennis, you have a question?
Yes, I do have a question.
Go ahead.
We just voted and we passed it, so we don't have a motion on the table, do we?
Yep, we do.
You got the first motion.
The main motion.
Well, did the
main
amendment not
motion
pass?
No, the amendment, J.P. Madison's amendment passed.
Did it pass?
Yeah, but not the main motion.
Okay.
But not the main motion.
So are we ready to vote on the main motion?
No, you've got a motion to table.
Okay. We got. Okay, we got a motion and a second. So, okay, let's do a roll call. Carly? Does everyone understand what they're voting on?
If we vote yes,
You're tabling.
You're tabling it, that's correct. And if, we're running out of time on the budget, so we'll do whatever you want to do, but I just want to make you aware of that. Carly?
Eva Madison.
no.
Sue Madison.
No.
Joe Maxwell.
No.
Gary McHenry.
No.
Joe Patterson.
No.
Butch Pond.
No.
Bill Ussery.
No.
Daniel Balls.
No.
Harvey Bowman. Rick Cochran.
No.
Robert Dennis.
No.
Lisa Ecke.
No.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd.
No.
Tom Lundstrom.
No.
Okay, so now-
Be back to the main motion, Judge.
so now we are back to the main motion, and what is that, who made that motion? Ann, did you make the main motion?
She did. As amended.
As amended.
Main motion as amended, okay. Okay, go ahead, J.P. Harbison.
Ashley, can you go through this with the caps? If I understand correctly, there's only one cap?
Mm-hmm.
And that's it?
Yes.
And
it would
that's
just,
the IT person?
Mm-hmm. That's
Okay,
correct.
and that's what passed?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Are we ready for a roll call?
Judge, can I speak, please? I'm sorry.
Let me get Joe Patterson. J.P. Patterson?
I make a motion that we take the $3,000 we spend for this meeting and make that the figure we're gonna raise it. and just be done with it. Thank you.
Based on everything you all are saying, I mean, you can always, this is just something that was recommended by Blair, that was requested. You can always keep the ones who are over the market value as is, they're currently paid, and give the raises to the other employees. I mean, you can maneuver however you want. This was just a recommendation by what the Quorum Court asked for. And the two that fall above that are the ones in yellow.
Okay, it looks like to me the discussion has ended, so we're going to go ahead and vote on the main motion as, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Please let me talk.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Oh, please. Well, two things that were said about my position or a question. Justice Pond asked about how many hours I work. I actually did keep a log for about 2 months in the spring when it was my thought that I would come to y'all this fall and ask for a deputy county attorney. And I couldn't justify it based on the hours. I figured out I worked in the spring between 45 and 50 hours a week over those 2 months. The reason I kept that log was last fall when we met 3-4 nights a week on budget for 2 or 3 months, I figure those totals were closer to 65 or 70 hours a week on some weeks, not every week, but some weeks. So I think it's fair to say my average week is 45 to 50 hours, JP Pond. Second, with respect to this particular, the county attorney's salary in particular, I can't speak for everybody else. I'd ask for y'all to consider this for me if I am fortunate enough to remain in this position. And as this, I would like my raise, if you give one, to be the same as everybody else's. This is, I just saw this tonight. The recommended raise is, for me, is 9%. That's very generous and it's too much. And I'm not just being as magnanimous as it might sound. I am very aware, coming to work in the courthouse every day, that somebody getting almost double the percentage raise that everybody else got has the potential to create resentment. And I don't want that. If you give me a raise, please do it like everybody else. Thank you.
Okay. JP Ecke? Are you yielding? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I think we've already set the precedent for doing what Mr. Zega talked about. It's kind of him. But we gave employees raises that are all over the map. So if there's resentment, it's already there. I think that if we're going to establish a pattern of following Blair's recommendations, then we need to do that. I just felt like there was a fairness issue with our elected officials and their pay rates that was worthy of discussion, and so I'm glad that's been adopted. But some people are off from market, and they need to be rectified, and that's what we've been trying to do this year, and that's why we've spent so much money and time focusing in this budget cycle on our employee pay. And so, I mean, if Mr. Zega says he shouldn't get more than somebody else, then that means we need to adjust the deputy prosecuting attorney. And I know Mr. Durrett's here. He's probably going to say, please don't do that. And then I think it calls into question all the other raises we passed, because 5% was the lowest that we gave anybody. So I appreciate that, but I hope that everybody realizes that what we were trying to do was not be inequitable, but in fact to be equitable and based on market. So I think we need to stick with this and vote on the motion as it stands.
Yes, J.P. Lloyd.
Thank you, Judge. I'm okay with all this, except that I believe that the two that's in yellow, I think we should go with what the adjusted per market is in the base salary. If it exceeds the market recommendation, why are we going so much higher then? I mean, like on the veterinarian, we could keep it at the 71,790, which is the base salary. Oh, that would be a cut. Oh, both of them would be a cut.
Yeah.
Scratch that, Lloyd. Thank you.
You figured that out, didn't you?
But, Madam Judge, couldn't we leave it at what the 216 budget includes? Is they're already above, and that's at 78,795, and the law clerk is already at 57? Could we take those two out? But they're already above market value? And as to Attorney Zega's comment, I don't think you have other employees working 50 to 60 hours a week that would be resentful. I think those that do work a lot, like a lot of our elected officials and so on, understand and can have empathy on what your pay raise should be, and not really value what those words are, because you know and we know how much you work. And if somebody wants to resent it, they're going to resent it regardless. Thank you.
Okay, J.P. Cochran.
Thank you, Judge. Attorney Zega, you're quite magnanimous. You were hired in below market. Our original amount, if I remember right, was 65 is what we had kind of budgeted, and you need a little bit more to make the change, and we voted and we approved that. The outgoing attorney made considerably more, and not even at the adjustment amount there. I understand you not wanting to cause people dissension, upset, because you got a different amount than they did. But the job is what the job is worth. You've been very valuable to us, and I feel like that what is proposed by Blair is the proper thing to do. It's right in line with what we've done with everybody else that works for the county. You're a hired in, just like everybody else is hired in. The elected officials are a different situation, but I think that with the cap that we have, I didn't vote for the cap, but with the cap that we have, these numbers are acceptable to me, and I would call for a question.
Can I recognize Joel? What the question's been called for? Is that Robert's rules?
No, you have a motion and a second to end debate. It takes a 2/3 vote, and it's not debatable.
Okay. You withdraw your second?
So now you only got the motion.
I seconded it.
Okay, so now, can I call on Joel now?
Unless there was a second that I did not hear from either J.P. Madison or J.P. Harbison, then debate is not ending.
So
and you may recognize J.P. Madison.
Thank you. There's a lot of pressure for this to be a worthwhile question or comment now. We'll see how I do. I just have a question for you, and I don't know if this is for you or for our HR director, but can you give some context as to why these two positions are already above market value?
I apologize. I can't. I ruined your moment. I don't. I'm not sure how that happened. Watson did not come. He has been kind of filling in, so I can get back with you. That's about as good as I can do.
Well, I mean, if there's some valid context for why there's always extenuating circumstances. So in my mind, if there's valid context for why we're already paying these people above market value, if there's something substantial there, then I see a case for the raise. Otherwise, I think I see the logic that J.P. Ecke was mentioning, that anybody who's not at market value should get the raise or some commensurate raise. But then if there's no great explanation, then maybe we would want to consider her suggestion of allowing everybody else to come up to market value or get the 5% raise, one of the two, and then maybe holding these if we're already paying them above market value. Thank you very much.
I apologize.
I'm going to call on J.P. Madison one more time, and then we're going to move on.
I do recall the debate we had when we set the salary for the law clerk. We did not actually base that salary on law clerk market. We based it on staff attorney market because the individual is a licensed attorney with experience. So the numbers that were brought to us were numbers from Little Rock, I think, that were based on an attorney position. And so it may have been that the way the position is titled, misled Blair into doing a slightly different market analysis. My guess is that if you looked at someone who's a licensed attorney in that role, it would probably be more reflective of where they are now. So I think that's why that one is set higher than market. A law clerk is typically somebody who's in law school still and is not licensed yet and doesn't have any years of practice experience, as opposed to someone who's a licensed attorney. And Ms. Darling came into that position with several years of experience. So I think that explains that. Can't help you on the bet.
Okay, are we ready for the vote on the main motion with the amendment? Does everyone understand that? Carly, call the roll, please.
Eva Madison,
Yes.
Sue Madison, Joe Maxwell, Gary McHenry, Joe Patterson, Butch Pond, Bill Ussery, Daniel Balls, Harvey Bowman, Rick Cochran,
Yes.
Robert Dennis,
Yes.
Lisa Eki,
No.
Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd,
No.
Tom Lundstrom,
Yes.
Okay, it passed. didn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, salary increases with the amendment has passed. Next thing on the agenda is number 7. Who is handling that? Is that Ashley? Huh? Judge Zimmerman? She's hiding on the back row. Come forward and y'all are kind of, like I say, I'm going to let you explain this to the court. I didn't see you back there. You're recognized.
Thank you. So we're asking to move some money, and I'm going to have Ms. Frisbee, our Court Services Director, to explain it to you, but we're not asking for any money.
That's correct.
She's got the money, just needs to move it.
We are just asking, I know a few weeks ago we were here and we discussed our evening reporting center, which is our newest service for our youth. And we're just asking if we can appropriate for the 2017 budget money from the 3031 fund, which is the Circuit Court Juvenile Division Fund. And we have about $43,339 in that fund to be able to be appropriated into our budget to be able to purchase a vehicle. And the vehicle we're looking into is a 7 or 8 passenger vehicle, to where our officers that will be stationed at the evening reporting center will have transportation to be able to pick up youth from the school or drop them off at the house. This is a safety situation because we want to be able to hand our youth to an adult or make sure that we're picking them up from various schools if they're not able to get to school by walking. That's basically it. I did attach the code, which is Arkansas Code 1613-326. That kind of goes into detail about that fund and how we're able to use it. And one of the number 5, it states that we can use it for after school and community-based programs, which is our evening reporting center. Part of the services we're providing there will be transportation.
And the way the money gets into the juvenile Circuit Court Juvenile Division Fund is for the probation fees that we collect, and it goes into that fund. And those fees and funds can only be used for services to our juveniles. So we're asking for this money to be appropriated to buy the van that's big enough to transport our kids every evening for our evening reporting center to the program and then home. So we check them in with the parents and we know they get there.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? J.P. Cochran?
Do you have plans for your fuel, tires, repairs, insurance?
We have planned that in our budget. We talked about the insurance, so we have enough in the juvenile court budget to cover the insurance for the extra vehicle.
Okay.
I don't know if he budgeted tires, but.
You won't need tires first year, but
Right.
I'm talking
Right.
about the
But we
operational
have the
expense.
insurance budgeted.
Do you have the fuel?
Yes, we do have
Yes,
it.
it's in our budget that we
Very good.
requested.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Carly, call the roll.
Eva Madison, Sue Madison, Joe Maxwell, Gary McHenry, Joe Patterson, Butch Pond, Bill Ussery, Daniel Balls, Harvey Bowman, Rick Cochran, Robert Dennis, Lisa Eki, Ann Harbison, Sharon Lloyd, Tom Lundstrom,
Yes.
This passes.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
The next thing we have is the finalization of the 2017 budget. The Quorum Court has complete review of the request for the 2017 budget. I'm sorry, do what? J.P. Cochran, you're recognized.
Thank you, Judge. When we went through the General Fund Department 0801 for the Extension Office, we didn't have a full group there, and the request that Mr. Kurtz asked for died as a stalemate, 7-7. I would ask if you would allow Mr. Kurtz to present a short summary of what the failure to grant the funds for the additional personnel for the 4-H and allow us to bring it to a vote again.
You did vote against it before, so you have a right to bring it forward this time.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we need a vote on that?
Judge, I think it would be, sorry.
Is it a motion to reconsider that I need to make?
It's a bring back. It's a motion to renew, and as I recall, J.P. Cochran's correct, and it was 7-7. So it failed, but as a tie. Anyway, long story short, it's a motion to renew, and that's correct.
Oh, it does not. Okay.
And it's the next day anyway. You had a second. I'm sorry.
So you had a motion and a second. Any discussion?
And to be clear, all this is doing is bringing it forward for discussion. You're not voting on anything substantive at this time. You're just bringing it to the table to discuss if you vote yes.
Okay. Any discussion?
May we have Bernie Kurtz speak to this?
Have to vote on your motion.
Okay, let's do roll call.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison. Joel Maxwell.
Yes.
Gary McHenry.
Yes.
Joe Patterson. Butch Pond.
Yes.
Bill Ussery.
Yes.
Daniel Balls.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Rick Cochran.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd.
Yes.
Tom Lindstrom.
Yes.
Okay. So we brought it back to the committee or to the court to be for discussion. So now I'm going to ask Bernie to come forward and talk to us again. Bernie, you're recognized.
I wrote a statement, if you allow me to read this. I want to begin by saying thank you to the court for allowing me to come back to discuss the Washington County Extension Services 2017 budget. I come before you today to plead with you to consider including a 5th county agent in the county extension office's next year's budget. A few weeks ago, I was before you requesting the same. At that time, the court decided to fund the county extension office at last year's level. This puts us short one county agent, our 4-H agent. This level of support is not sustainable for the remaining agents. Without an increase in funding, I will be cutting services currently being provided. Some of you may ask why the county extension office needs 5 agents. I will tell you why. First, agriculture. According to the 2012 agricultural census, Washington County has 2,502 farmers, producing gate receipts that exceeds $443 million. This does not account for the value-added products and income to families who work in the food processing industry. 2 agents work with these agricultural producers, one specializing in animal and pasture management, and the other in commercial vegetable and fruit production. Home gardening and home landscaping is an area that affects every homeowner. According to the 2014 census, county population currently has over 90,000 homeowners, And these homeowners expect some values, some services from the Extension Office in regards to home horticulture. In regards to agricultural water quality, since 1990, the Extension Water Quality Education Program reached out to the urban and rural residents in Washington County and have been supported through $4.2 million in federal grants and other local funding. Pollution prevention programs engage youth, farmers, homeowners, municipal office officials, landscape and design professionals, the construction community, and city as well as county employees. In doing so, in actions to improve and protect local water resources. Over the last 10 years, for every dollar you, Quorum Court, have invested into an agriculture agent working in water quality, that agent has garnered 13 additional dollars, which has translated in over $2.5 billion of added value educational programs. Washington County has the second highest number of individuals in Arkansas at below poverty level. This is almost 21% of the county residents. Of these individuals, nearly half of those are youth under age 18. The Family and Consumer Science Agent focuses on teaching skills to help our residents eat better so they can live better. The nutrition education to this audience focuses on developing healthy food choices to become habits, safe food handling, developing a spending plan for food dollars to last throughout the month, and becoming more physically active. Now to our youth program. Statements were made in this court that the 4-H program is a duplication of services, that FFA is a school-funded program. I will argue that fact, that neither program is a duplication of another. In fact, the success of our 4-H program has resulted in FFA teams winning state, regional, and national competitions. We start engaging with kids starting at the age of 5 years of age. The budget was approved for in 2016 to cut the existing 4-H county extension agent's position. Because of this loss, our total 4-H impact is down this year, approximately 18,000 Washington County students. Washington County families deserve the opportunity to grow and learn by hands-on activities which 4-H provides.
Thank you, Bernie. We have any discussion? J.P. Cochran?
I make the motion that we go back to reconsider the 2017 request.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Judge, may I?
Yes, please.
I think I understand what you're trying to do, J.P. Cochran, but maybe I think you're asking to fund this agent. Am I correct about that?
Yes, sir.
And
I'm
that's
asking to go back to the original 2017 request, which would include both agents, whereas we left it at the last.
That's what I.
Yes.
I didn't understand your motion to be framed in that way, and so I want to make sure that's.
Okay. I'll do it in English next time.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? J.P. Madison?
Thank you, Madam Judge, and I'm having a little trouble with my throat tonight. It seems to me that the recent election sent a resounding message that people do not want to see government continue to grow. And this is an example of growing. There was funding from the Division of Agriculture that was cut at the Extension Office. And we're being asked to pick up the slack. If the Division of Agriculture of the University of Arkansas didn't have this as a priority, I'm not quite sure why we are. There are many programs in our community that are beneficial for our youth, at churches, in scouting programs, and none of them turn to the government to pay for it. I realize this program has passionate support from the youth that it's benefited, and I'm confident that they have reaped enormous benefits. but I just question the need for the taxpayers of the county to pay for that. And I struggle with that because scouting does wonders with our youth. There are wonderful programs at our churches that benefit our youth, but none of them receive government funding. Thank you.
J.P. Maxwell.
Thank you, Madam Judge. Bernie, I know we talked a little bit about this, so I'll try not to make you repeat too much when we were on the phone earlier, but can you clarify for me again where this funding used to come from before last year when we agreed to fund half of it, and then again this year? But where did this gap in funding originate from?
Back up 2 years, the funding plan from the Division of Agriculture, as J.P. Madison refers to, the funding plan at that time, your support funded us with 5 agents and 1 program assistant that worked. The program assistant worked in the 4-H program as well. A new funding plan was being developed in cooperation with several county judges starting 2 years ago, and the new funding plan asked for an increase, and that's what we're seeing today. This increase is being asked to all quorum courts at the same level.
And I guess a follow-up question would be, is this something you're asking for permanent funding going forward, or is this just to handle? I know we did a half step last year. Currently, we're on the books for a half a step this year to help out with that gap. Are you asking for this with the intent of getting some of that funding back from the Division of Agriculture in the future, or is this intended to be kind of a permanent funding by the county of the Extension Office?
This would be a permanent funding. The expectancy is that you all come to the table every year thereafter at this level until a new plan is negotiated.
And do you have any understanding of when that new plan might be up for renegotiation?
The first plan, which prior to that was very individualized, whatever the county wanted to do, the first plan was negotiated starting in 2000, implemented in 2001. So it's been 14, 15 years. So when will the next time be? That's not for me.
So
I don't initiate those.
Okay. There's nothing on the books at this point?
Not that I'm aware of.
Thank you.
J.P. Madison.
Thank you, Judge. I've heard from a lot of people about this issue. I can't say that very many of them have been in my district, but everyone I've heard from has been very passionate. I've heard from master gardeners. I've heard from 4-Hers. And what I found completely remarkable is how much support 4-H already has. And I really wish all of our entities that help young people had this much support. And that's kind of what's giving me pause here, because I don't know how we got to the point where the quorum court was the bad guys on this issue, but we've definitely been labeled the bad guys. I've gotten emails that were not polite, that were yelling at us for not supporting this position. The county already funds an office that's not a county office. It's a state office. That's the first thing I try to tell everybody when they've kind of been mad at me about this issue, is I say it's not actually a county office. We've just been grateful for the partnership, the benefits, and we funded it. But the money that we give, that is, I think, $220,000 already, is just to help with salaries. That doesn't include what we spend on facilities that appears in other budgets. We're spending quite a bit of money annually already on funding for the county extension office. What's frustrating to me is that somehow we've become the ones that are the linchpin to hold 4-H together, because we don't decide what positions we fund. We said we'll fund X number of positions, and it was the extension office that decided which ones to fund. But now it's fallen back on us like we're going to kill the 4-H program. And I really regret that it's come to that, because that's not really our call. We give a certain amount of money, and the county office could do what it wants with it. But I look at it and say, much like J.P. Madison said, we have great programs out there that support kids that don't do it with $1 of government funding. They do it completely supported by the school system or purely volunteers. And I don't know when this became the role of government. I don't know when it became the role of government to help fund extracurricular activities. So I don't doubt that 4-H is a great program. I've heard from people I care about a lot. Scout Jennings went to school with my son. And I admire our young people for coming tonight and voicing their opinions. But I just have to sit back and say, does all of us really think this is government's role, to fund an extracurricular activity for our students? Because if that's where we start, I don't know where we stop. Because are the Girl Scouts next? They're a worthy cause. The Boy Scouts, are they next? And I don't know where we go in that. But I know that 4-H, all of you, are a tremendous amount of support already, and I know it can be a successful organization. I just don't think that we should be the bad guys in this, that it should fall to us, because it's not our program. There's no doubt that we get benefits from it, but there has to be a limit to how much government at the county level can support. And I think you heard our discussion tonight that my priority, at least this year, was giving our employees a much-deserved raise. And that's where I have to fall on this issue. Thank you, Judge.
J.P. Hardison. This is an agricultural program. We're number 2 in the state in agriculture. The little bit of money that they are asking, look at the ripple effect. Look at the ripple effect of the money that's being created in this county. Christy Weavers came up at the last meeting and said, overall, that the county extension office is being supported about a third by federal money, about a third by state money, and about a third, 33%, with county money across the country. Not just in Arkansas, but this is a situation in which government is pushing things back to the local level because it can be done more efficiently at the local level than it can be at the national or state level. So 4-H, yes, it is a youth program, but it is a agricultural youth program. It's not like Girl Scouts, it's not like Boy Scouts, it's not like a church group. It's a base to this economic development in this county. So when you say we want to pull the rug out from under the economic base by not supporting 4-H, that is unrealistic to me. It sends me a message that you really don't understand what agriculture means to this state. And I have put a lot of work into 4-H over the years when I taught school. It's one of the most beneficial. Look at all these kids that came up here and spoke tonight. Where do you think they learned that? They learned it in 4-H, and they carry that over into school, and that helps them in school. It helps them to get scholarships. It helps them. It's the ripple effect. We can hire a 4-H agent, and I kind of wrote down the ripple effect was like over $700,000. But when you really look at the ripple effect, it's probably over $1 million. If you really put the pencil to the paper of how 4-H benefits this county. I just don't understand how people can't support this program. It's been, yes, I agree, it was a state-funded problem, and they didn't fund it, they didn't put it in Category 1, but we have the money to do it. And because we have the money to do it, I think it's our responsibility to do it. Thank you. J.P. Ecke.
Thank you, Madam Judge. Thank you, Mr. Kurtz, for being here this evening. And thank you, 4-H members, parents, and supporters of the 4-H and the Extension Program, Master Gardeners that are here this evening to voice your support for this much-needed program and this much-needed extension funding. I will say, in the words of our wonderful, wise Sheriff Tim Helder, who said, "We collect taxes to provide services to our community." And that is what we do. And that's why we collect taxes here in Washington County to provide services. And those who already are choosing not to support and fund you have already made up their minds. But I ask and I appeal to the other justices on this court who are perhaps not so against this program to consider the future generation of all these wonderful, wonderful kids that are going to be our future leaders. And they're the ones that we're going to hand the baton off to, and they are going to lead this county to the bigger and brighter future than what it is at present. And I support the full funding of the extension agent because I believe in you. And I hope the other justices can say, I'm going to invest in you. But this is why we collect taxes. Not to save the money and have huge amounts. We need to have enough, but we're here to provide services. And this is a much needed service to the youth and to the economic development of this county. Thank you, Madam Judge.
J.P. Dennis.
Thank you, Madam Judge. I've lived here all my life, and I remember when it was called the County 4-H. I also remember when it was a county fair. So I come to the Quorum Court thinking that it's part of the county. And so, you know, you come here and you learn a lot of different things, and sometimes, you know, you don't understand all of them. Sometimes you do. I don't know when it failed to be, or when it quit being part of the county and part of the county services and some of the things that are part of the county itself. I respect what you're saying about not having big government or expanding on government. I understand that as well. But I also understand when you take seed and put it in the ground and you get, we were talking about cherry tomatoes earlier, when you get lots and lots of cherry tomatoes out of one plant, well, then that's a good thing. And so I was thinking, and of course, I talked to a lot of people. They, you know, I enjoy it, and I talk to a lot of people, and I ask them, what do you think? And I don't give them my opinion. I ask them what they think, and I'm discounting all the emails that I've gotten. But I've talked to over 100 people about this, and I've gotten no one that has said, no, I'm not for it. Not a one. You know, they'll say, well, you know, how much will it cost? And I said, well, if there's 250,000 people in Washington County, it costs you 3 dimes, 30 cents. So I guess it boils down to me, the question would be, do I think investment in these young people is worth 3 dimes? 30 cents, less than a postage stamp. And I most certainly do. And so I'll be voting for it. And I'm also voting for it because so many people have asked me that are in my area to vote for it. And I think that's what I'm here for, is to represent my district and their views. And they have told me very plainly to vote for it. So that's what I'll be doing. And I hope that you'll think about what your people in your district want as well. Thank you.
I have Pond, Cochran, and Ussery. So, J.P. Pond?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I realize that everyone around this horseshoe, many of our constituents, we're thinking about the money, the tax money that we spend, the property tax. We're in the process of a transition here where every year for a while now, the taxes that the state collects, they've been reducing their taxes, and I like that. I don't like to pay any more taxes than I have to, and on the same, well, on the other hand, I also like the idea that in this transition, what we're working through here, we're going to decide here locally what kind of money we're going to spend on our children right here locally. Not just the children. You have the gardening programs and all this sort of thing. I like the idea of we here on the local level being able to decide where our tax money, our property tax money is going to go. We get to see it. We appreciate it. I appreciate the programs you have for these children in particular. The activities that they're involved in, it's a whole lot more, it's educational, and it's a whole lot more wholesome than some of the other things, the other activities some of these children get involved in. I just like what you're doing, and by golly, I'm for you getting this funding for a program that I can see what's going on. It's somehow, and I don't mean to pick on the guys down at Little Rock, but the other way around that we had it, we send our tax money down there to Little Rock, and they kind of distribute it back. Somehow we generally don't get as much. Some of it went someplace else on the trip down there or back or somewhere. But on this thing here, we're going to see how we took and spent that property tax money. And I like what these children do. And I appreciate the things they're learning, you're putting tools in their toolbox that many of these children, they're going to use the rest of their lives. All of them will. Some of them just won't realize how much they use these skills that are taught. And I appreciate you having the patience with us. You've had individuals come in here and educate us and explain to us what we're spending our money on. And yes, sir, I'll be supporting this motion that's on the floor at this time. Thank you.
J.P. Cochran, and then I have J.P. Usry.
I'll be short. My wife and I vote 60 cents for you.
J.P. Usry.
I'd just like to say that I'm grateful to have an opportunity to vote for something that's positive and something that invests in the future. And it's something that's I would much rather invest in training somebody how to act properly than I would to have to pay to keep them in jail. And so this is a real opportunity for us to be proactive instead of reactive. What an incredible opportunity we have. And so I encourage, let's get this thing passed. Thank you.
JP.
Last comment. With all due respect, I was disrespectful to Justice Madison about being against this, and I apologize. Didn't mean to sound disrespectful. But I will say that Judge Zimmerman was here appealing to us about the program that they're starting over at the Jones Center. And when I asked Jeannie Mack what an extension agent meant to them, she says, oh my goodness. They come over and they volunteer at at JDC. They teach them how to sew. They teach them how to do this. And then the guys, she goes, the big guys, with the tattoos, they ended up having a baby shower for one of the girls that was there. And they made her little receiving blankets and whatnot, and they gave them to her because this is what the extension agent taught them how to do. And then talking about our senior citizens, how many of y'all volunteer with the senior citizens program? Y'all go out there and you spend time with our senior citizens community. So you've got juvenile detention, you've got our senior citizens, and then you have our agriculture, and they are contributing to the economic development of this. So it is a ripple effect, and that's it. I thank you.
Any other discussion? Call the roll, Carly.
Eva Madison? No. Sue Madison? No. Joe Maxwell? Yes. Gary McHenry? Yes. Joe Patterson? Yes. Butch Pond? Yes. Bill Ussery? Yes. Daniel Balls? Yes. Harvey Bowman? Yes. Rick Cochran? Yes. Robert Dennis? Yes. Lisa Ecke? Yes. Ann Harbison? Yes. Sharon Lloyd? No. Tom Lundstrom?
No.
It passed.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
That was the last thing that I have on our agenda tonight. I'm sorry.
You have to address the big budget now.
Well, that's what I'm fixing, yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were about to ask to adjourn.
No, this is finalization of the 2017 budget. The Quorum Court has completely reviews of the questions of the 2017 budget, and the ordinance adopted the budget is on the agenda for Thursday's regular meeting. Is the budget complete at this time, and are there any other items that we still need to address? J.P. Cochran.
Thank you, Judge. Have we passed the, what do you call the budget controls? Has that formally been passed?
Yeah, that's...
Okay, that's what I was thinking. I would like to amend that. And my thought on this is to add an item on here. The various budgets have considerable amount in fuel. And it's not that I don't think they'll spend their money wisely, but because I didn't challenge the fuel amounts on several of the budgets.
Rick, do me a favor.
Yes, ma'am.
Please get closer to your mic. Yeah,
okay.
we're having a hard
Sorry.
time hearing you.
Okay, I'll be getting in. What I'm asking to consider is a additional item for our budget controls related to line 2007, which is fuels, oils, and lubricants, to prevent moving money from that line item to another line item. We have several budgets that've got a lot of money in fuel, and they've brought it up for fear that the price of fuel may go up, and it may, and they're good to plan for that. But I would really hate for that to be a pad in there, and I would make a motion that we add the 8th item on here to prevent line 2007 from being transferred.
Hang on just a moment. That's kind of, anyone that would like to leave, you can go ahead. We're going to discuss the finishing part of budget. So if you feel like you need to go ahead and take your children and go ahead, because you won't be bothering us. Let's go ahead and let the just. I know a lot of those babies need to go to bed. You can't leave, Joel. Okay, let's start this over. And Rick, I'm sorry, would you totally restate that
Okay.
so we can hear?
Back from the beginning, on budget controls, I'm proposing, making a motion that we add item number 8, which would be a prohibiting transfers out of line 2007, which is the fuels, oils, and lubricants from any account on any budget.
Second.
I think,
Yeah, we
Justice
got a
Madison
motion
already
and a
seconded.
second. Okay,
Right.
any
Right.
discussion?
Judge, may I?
Yes, would you please?
I'm assuming, J.P. Cochran, and it's the sense of the second as well, that if somebody were to come back and ask you, you would, just like any other budget control, they could come back to the court and
Yes,
ask to
this
suspend.
does not prevent a department from coming back. If fuel costs do go through the roof, we don't know. But if they do, then that would be just a budget request. But if they don't spend it all, my intent is that it not go to another line item.
But it would take an ordinance with this, the way you're framing the budget control. It would take an ordinance from y'all to allow it to move out of 2007 to something else.
Yes, that is the intent. Thank you.
Yes, J.P. Maxwell.
I'll just put this one observation. I did a little research into the fuel costs because that's been such a up and down piece of our budget over the last couple of years. They do anticipate an increase in fuel futures. It doesn't look like it's going to be near what it was in the past, but it does show a steady incline over the next year to year and a half as best their projections are. So I think there's some wisdom in what you're doing, and I will support that.
Any other discussion? Carly, call the roll.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Joe Maxwell.
Yes.
Gary McHenry.
Yes.
Joe Patterson.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Bill Ussery.
Yes.
Daniel Balls.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Rick Cochran.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd.
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Since we seem to be in the spirit of reconsidering and adding things back to the budget, I make a motion to add back the $4,100 that we struck from the health department's budget to allow for an educational television channel in the waiting room at the health department.
Second.
Any discussion? So, maybe you could go ahead and,
Judge, you can do a voice vote or you can do a roll call.
okay, let's do a voice, let's see how we do on a voice vote. All in favor?
They want a roll call,
Okay.
so they can call for that.
Okay, call the roll. Karen's shaking her head.
Eva Madison. Sue Madison. Joel Maxwell. Gary McHenry. Joe Patterson. Butch Pond. Bill Ussery. Daniel Balls. Harvey Bowman. Rick Cochran. Robert Dennis. Lisa Akey. Ann Harbison. Sharon Lloyd. Tom Lundstrom.
No.
Yes, ma'am.
It failed. So do we have anything else that we need to, okay, Rick, I'm sorry, J.P. Cochran.
That's okay. That's okay. You can call me anything as long as you call me for dinner. One of the things that I struggle with is our Ozark Transit funding for the rural route. And I've been looking at this pretty hard. I'm speaking of Route 620. This route runs 16 hours a day, runs from the West Fork area out to Lincoln and back and forth. Looking at the passenger count, September was 16.3 average passengers per day. And when they say passengers, each boarding is a passenger. So if I get on at one of these points and ride it for a ways and get off and then come back and get on, then I'm 2 passengers. So what we have over the last year is about 8 people per day that ride this route. About 20 days or just a little over per month gives you about 240 rider days. We've got $100,000 we appropriated for this a couple years ago to see how it would go, and it was something that we wanted to see if it would take. And when you budget that out, at 20 rider days per month for 12 months is 240 rider days. 240 rider days into 100,000 is $416.67 per day. When we only have an average of 8 riders per day, it's $52.08 per rider, or $12,500 per year for those 8 riders. I can buy them a car. I can buy them a car. And I would move that we would strike $100,000 for the line item 3090, dues and memberships off of budget 0201. It comes out of the road half-cent sales tax. This isn't going to help our general fund, but we've given it a chance. It's marginally successful, but I just can't do it. I have to speak up and say this is money not well spent, and those 8 people per day will have to find another way to get into town. Thank you, Judge.
J.P. Harbison.
Number one, I don't think we need to be going back to the budget and bringing things up. We've already passed this. And number two, Ozark Guidance is not here to defend the program. Number three, Ozark Guidance, that's it. Okay, regional, yeah, that's the wrong organization. They're not here to defend it. And this is I know it's a new program, but we have to support regional transit, and it's not going to happen overnight. And I really don't think that we need to be, for one thing, we don't have Ozark Regional here to defend themselves. And I will be voting against this because I think it's something that can work. It's for low-income people. No, they're not doing like we want them to do, but at some point I think it will catch on and it will be a very viable transportation system. Thank you.
I've got Madison, Lloyd, Madison, and Lundstrom. J.P. Madison.
Thank you, Madam Judge.
It was me first.
Oh, which one was
Well,
it?
I think Eva was first.
I kind of have to ask myself how we got to this point in our priorities, because $4,000 for the health department, we can't fund that. To heck with those poor people that have to go get their health care at the health department. People who have no transportation, who are trying to actually better themselves, there may only be 8 of them, but it starts off as 8 and it grows, and you cannot have any sense of a reliable public transportation system until you have consistency. The people from ORT have come to us and said that time after time, that if we pull the funding year to year and the route goes, no one will ever ride on it because it's not reliable. And we won't ever have mass transit in what's becoming a very large metropolitan area unless we start somewhere. The 4-H people who are still here, I applaud you. You won. You campaigned very, very hard, and you won. There's nobody here to speak for the people that ride the bus because they can't get here. And I have to ask, what is wrong with this court's priorities when we can fund you all, and you are deserving. I'm not doubting that. It was very clear. But you can get here. You can voice your opinions. You have great support systems. Your children are great already because they have your terrific support systems. But the people in our community who need it most, we are turning them down. That is a really sad testament of the way government funding is working. If we can help the 4-H kids, we can help the people that need to come in from rural Washington County to try to find a job. I hope this court will think twice about voting against something, yanking funding from somebody when they're not even here and they haven't even had notice that it was on the agenda. That's really harsh.
Debbie Madison.
Thank you, Judge. I think, number one, we're guessing on how many actual riders the numbers are reflecting. A person gets on, it goes about their business, and somebody else gets on. I think we're guessing. But more importantly, these are people that don't have another method of transportation. And if you're out there at certain times of the day, you'd very much appreciate having 8 fewer cars on the road, especially if they're in front of you. I've gotten where there's parts of town I don't go at certain hours of the day. We are facing traffic problems, and ORT is being fairly creative. They're about to start running a bus back and forth to Walmart headquarters, hoping to get some cars off the road and save people some money. I mean, this is not just about transporting people that need it, it's about doing it cheaper. When you can put people on a bus, it's cheaper than running everybody's SUV up and down the road. The elderly are in this category. Elderly people often lose the wisdom to drive their best and may have had family members prevail upon them to give up a car. And yet they still want to go to Walmart. They still want to go to the mall sometime. And there are people who need these rides to get to work, even if it's just going to Sue's house to rake leaves, except the bus doesn't come to my house. But it's not just a daily worker. It's somebody happy to have an odd job, and they'll wait in line at a bus for 30, 40 minutes for the bus to show up. And how else would you leave West Fork, Arkansas, if you don't have a car and you don't have any money, unless you prevail upon your friends or ride the bus? We're getting people's cars off the road. We're taking care of elderly. We're taking care of low-income people. And we may be taking care of people who are just environmentally sensitive and know it makes sense to ride public transportation. Please don't cut this funding for ORT. Thank you, Judge.
Debbie Lundstrom.
I did my calculations the night the ORT man was here to defend himself. And I'm sure that's probably when you did yours, but I came up with essentially the same numbers that J.P. Cochran did. And that route basically connects several small cities. It's not going south down into the county and picking up rural people. Now, they'll send a little shuttle down there and get you if you want to go. But that route is going through those cities. So I would prefer to see the cities pay for it the way Springdale and Fayetteville and everybody else does. Even Elm Springs, where I live, pays $800 a year for ORT, and there's like one bus a week goes through there or something. That route he was talking about the other night takes 3 hours to make that loop. So you're not going to wait 30 minutes on that bus. You're going to wait 3 hours to get back home. So, I mean, it takes a lot of planning, you know, what yard you want to rake. You know, if it takes 3 hours for the bus to make that route. I read these numbers that I get back on the internet, hundreds of thousands of people riding this bus system. And I am very careful to check every bus I see. Now, they've tinted the windows a lot darker than they used to be. But if I get the sun on the right side of that bus, it's sitting there empty. I have yet to see a full bus. I've seen a bus occasionally with 2, maybe 3 riders on it. I have never seen anything like a full one. I would like to see that money go back into our road department where we can help take care of some of the roads out here in the rural areas instead of paying $50-some a ride. Years ago, the fellow that was in here wanting an extra $6 or $8 million a year, remember when he wanted to raise the property tax for it? He took me to breakfast one morning, bought me a cup of coffee, and he said, we'd just like to figure out how to make it break even. And I said, well, what does it cost per ride? He said, $15. And I said, well, what are you charging per ride? He said, 75 cents. I said, you know, it's pretty easy to figure out how to break even. You charge $15 instead of 75 cents and you'll break even. Well, you can't do that, then you couldn't ride. Well, you know, life is rough. But it goes back to what we said about churches and stuff on this other issue. Churches will help people get where they need to go too. I've done a lot of it myself. But anyway, I'm all in favor of putting this money back in the road department. Thank you, Judge.
J.P. Cochran.
Thank you, Judge. I just want to point out that that will still leave $23,000, which will support our paratransit, the folks that are in the county that need a ride into hospital, doctor, or what have you. That service will still exist. This money is strictly the money that we voted in a couple years ago for this route, long distance route. You know, we gave it a try. It's been in service a little over 2 years, and it really hasn't grown that much, and the cost is just prohibitive. So I just, at this point, can't support going for it anymore. Thank you, Judge.
J.P. Harbison.
This sales tax for roads was voted in by the people, and there was that clause in there. It was for public transportation. If we don't have public transportation, we'll never develop public transportation. And I'm going to disagree with the number of people that are riding that bus from West Fork to Fayetteville. They were hoping to have a route that would go to the industrial park, and a lot of these people need jobs. They don't have reliable transportation. I know that it's right now it doesn't look good, but if we start cutting it, we are never going to have public transportation. And it's our priorities sometimes I just don't understand them. But I think this is very detrimental to our relationship with ORT to cut one of their routes without giving them the opportunity to defend it. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Carly, call the roll.
Eva Madison?
No.
Sue Madison?
No.
Joel Maxwell?
Yes.
Gary McHenry?
Yes.
Joe Patterson? Oh.
Yes.
Butch Pond?
Yes.
Bill Ussery?
Yes.
Daniel Balls?
No.
Harvey Bowman?
Yes.
Rick Cochran?
Yes.
Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Lisa Ake?
Yes.
Ann Harbison?
No. Yeah, you're voting. Yeah, you've been talking against it.
No.
Yeah, you.
Sharon Lloyd?
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom?
Yes.
I have it 11 to 4 in favor, Judge.
Okay. So
In favor, it won.
Rick's motion,
Without anyone from here from ORD.
well, that's the vote of the court, so that's, you know.
Wait.
No, we've already had public comment.
Steve.
All right, I make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay.
Yes, Carly.
Just for clarification purposes, did you say that the motion failed?
No,
It passed.
Rick made a motion and that motion passed.
Okay, just making
Yes.
sure. All right, thank you.
There's a lot of confusion on that. Okay, is there any other changes we need to look at now for the budget? Because Thursday night, the budget will be ready to vote on in its entirety. So is there any other changes or that we need to do? Yes, go ahead and ask.
Can you tell us what the shortfall is for new revenue compared to what's been approved as budgeted as of tonight?
Bobby's here.
New revenue is 61 million. Requested budget's 65 million.
So we're $4 million short.
Yes.
And a $500,000 increase would raise how much per year?
1.5 million for the general fund.
So we would have to do more than $1 million to pay for what we're talking about.
If you want the budgets to equal new revenue, yes.
And if we passed a millage increase, it won't affect next year's revenue. It will go into effect the following year. So whatever we do, we're $4 million in the hole.
No, we're not. That's incorrect.
Okay, I have the floor.
Point of order.
But
It will, the revenue will come in next year. If you pass the millage increase in
My-
this next meeting.
I thought it was collected in arrears.
Yeah, well, we're in arrears, like 2016 taxes are being paid in 2017. The taxes that you're levying or the 26 that you levy for yourself and everybody else are the 2016 taxes due payable in 2017.
Judge, I need to be heard on this when there's.
Just like the Fayetteville millage that just passed.
Okay, now.
We'll be levying that, we have to.
Right.
And it'll go in, and it'll get collected in 2017. Forward, it'll be 2016 taxes collected in 2017.
Okay, before we go any further, I'm going to recognize our attorney.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would just remind you, at 7:30 on Monday night, if we are required by statute to pass our millage at the regular quorum court meeting in November. If you're going to do something, I strongly recommend that you do it right now, if you're going to change the millage right now. Thank you.
J.P. Harbison? Yeah.
Right now, we have over $6 million because of the increases that we've had this year and what the elected officials and departments have saved is to be projected, and we have more than enough to cover this budget without doing a millage increase. Now, if we do a millage increase, you know, I would suggest that we do a very small one. But to say that we've got to do a millage increase, that we're $5 million short is incorrect because of the carryover. So, you know, let's use correct numbers when we're talking about how much money we have. Thank you.
J.P. Lundstrom.
Yes, I would like to see that happen too. We were here a few weeks ago, and I could have sworn that the comptroller or somebody said that there was plenty of money coming in to cover this budget and have a surplus. So I've been voting yes on a lot of stuff I'd normally vote no on based on that premise. So if we're going to come up with a budget that's $5 million short, I'll probably be voting no on that night. So I need to know before next quorum court meeting the incoming revenue and what the reserves will be, et cetera, some final numbers on this thing. Thank you, Judge.
Just real quickly, what we were just talking about is the new revenue. A carryover is a revenue line item. We count that. So total revenue we're going to have is 84 million. Requested budgets are 65 million. So we're about 19 to 20 million over the requested budgets if you account for carryover and new revenue.
Then we're gonna hold back 10%.
Yes. Well, that's the 84, the available to budget is 77 million. Requested budgets are 65 million.
So in other words, you're saying that there's gonna be plenty of money here next year to cover all of this 2017 budget and still have reserve without a millage increase.
Yes, as currently on this budget summary, general's going to have 6.8 million left over if everything came true on the budget. And overall be 11.8 million in reserves for all funds.
We've got like 15 new families a week moving into this part of the country, according to the newspapers and what have you. They're all moving into homes that we're going to start collecting tax on.
Yeah, property taxes.
So our property taxes keep going up in spite of the fact we reduced the millage.
Yes.
And our sales tax have been doing very nicely.
That's correct.
This last year, where now we're getting 4 or 5% increases.
Yes, it's doing well right now.
Right. I mean, it may change.
Yes.
All this is speculative to a degree anyway. But based on your numbers now, this would be a sound budget without a tax increase.
That is correct,
With
as
a
I see
reserve.
it.
Thank you, sir. That's a question I needed answered.
All right.
J.P. Cochran.
Thank you, Judge. One thing that we, in adjusting our insurance, haven't considered is a potential infusion that we would have to do in the year, and I'm wondering if the court wants to appropriate an amount for a potential infusion. What we've changed hasn't really prevented us from having a shortfall. And I'm thinking that putting a reserve or a budget, last year we failed to budget it. We knew that we were going to probably have an $800,000 infusion, but we didn't budget for it. And what I'm proposing is that we budget at least $500,000 for that, knowing that it's most likely going to happen. Our lost experience has been this way for several years. The changes in our plan are not going to thwart that. It's hard to know who's going to get sick, how sick, but I think that we'd be wise to appropriate that and just have it set aside on our unappropriated reserves, knowing that we very well likely may have the surprise. So I would make a motion of a $500,000 appropriation for the insurance fund for an infusion, a potential infusion.
Okay, now, J.P. Harbison? I'm sorry. Did we get a second on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Joel
so-
second.
Okay,
What,
so
second for the, okay.
we've got a motion and a second to
But
have
our-
an infusion of $500,000 into the insurance fund budget, into the insurance fund.
Okay, but, no, not Hill, the insurance, Nelson driver said that our shortfall was going to be somewhere between $20,000 and $32,000. Well, that's what I have in my notes. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't mind putting $500,000 because that still gives us $6 million carryover. And I'd rather force to do it and then someone come up and say, hey, why are we doing this?
So we have a motion and a second on the floor. J.P. Maxwell.
As I understand it, this is a little bit like semantics. I mean, we can budget it. If the money doesn't go away if they don't need it, you can always remove it back to appropriate to, it just shows some foresight and some planning and that we anticipate there's some potential here. We'll cross our fingers and hope, but that's a sketchy strategy just to hope. So this is a great way to kind of have part of this already worked out. So I'm not sure this is a major monumental move. I just think it's maybe some good bookkeeping the way I understand it. So I'm saying that so in case someone who knows my numbers much better than I do can correct me and my assumptions here.
Talking budgets,
I apologize, I don't quite understand what the question
we're talking about appropriating $500,000 in the event that the insurance fund, as it has in the past, needs an infusion and our help to keep it solvent.
Right.
It's really a bit of a semantic issue is the way I see it. We can always appropriate that later, or we can proactively kind of anticipate that and have that in the back of our, to me, it's a psychological advantage where we actually anticipate the bill we're probably going to have if history repeats itself. But we're not spending the money until the money has to be spent. And if I understand it correctly, if the money is spent, we really don't have a whole lot of choice. It's not really debatable, even if it is technically debatable, we're going to have to infuse that. So this is really just proactive accounting and making us aware that that Damocles sword is hanging over our head.
Yes, we would treat it exactly like we do the jail infusion.
Thank you.
Okay. J.P. Patterson.
Thank you, Judge. I think it's a good move to move $500,000 because that insurance fund has really jumped around over the last 10, 12, 15 years that I've been here. And there's times that we've had to come up with a lot of money in a pretty short period of time. And you still got it. It's just there. It's just set aside for that. And that just saves the shock because we've had some shocks like when something got figured wrong and we owe somebody $1 million. And, you know, we've had these little things come along all the time. And I just think it'd be a good idea. I support that. Thank you.
J.B. Madison.
I do have more questions for Mr. Hill because this seems like fuzzy math to me. Everybody's looking for some way to not have to pass a millage. I'm with you there. But I don't know how millions of dollars are falling from the sky given the condition the county has been in. And that's what you're telling me. We have $61 million in general fund new revenue and we have budgeted $65 million. Say what you will. Those numbers should match, in my opinion. They don't. But where are we coming up with $19 additional million?
And carryover.
Okay, but what's the general? Because 61 and 65 are general fund numbers, right?
No, that's total.
That's total. Well, then what did you say about 85?
That's the total revenues for all funds, 85 million. For general fund, it's 38 million, 38.6.
Okay, so what is the projected carryover for the general fund?
As I see it right now today, it's 12,300,000.
And what are you estimating are the sources of that? Because parts of it's what's in reserves, parts is going to be unspent from this year,
It's just,
sort of.
For my purposes, it's just what's left at the end of the year. It's unspent budgets, maybe additional revenue that's come in, or it's just what I have in the bank December 31st.
Ms. Farber, can you
that's
help
the
us in
carryover
terms of
figure.
like where it's coming from? Because I don't know how, I mean, it's like money's falling from the sky and it doesn't make any sense.
Well, that would be more my line of questioning. I'm not much help. I mean, if you look at the budget, if everything comes true on this budget, at the end of the year, I would have 6.8 million left in the bank, in the general fund, if you go by this line.
Because right now in reserves, we're not showing nearly that much money. Ms. Barber, right? What's in reserves?
Right.
In general fund reserves, unappropriated, unencumbered.
As for 2016?
For right now, today.
Okay, let me look it up.
Now, on the actual fund, today we have like 12.8 million in the general fund.
Well, that's cash in the bank. I'm talking about what's in reserves. Because if we're having that much money roll over that's not being spent in budgets, what it tells me is our budget is totally wrong. Because, I mean, this just doesn't make sense. I mean, I was very stingy with people like the 4-H folks because we didn't have any money, and now we're suddenly got $19 million falling from the sky. How much?
It's not falling.
Do we know?
Currently, as of October, it's $6,547,619 in unappropriated reserves for general.
So somewhere we're getting an additional $12 million, $13 million?
This unappropriated reserves is including the projected carryover and new revenue, minus the budgets that were approved for 2016.
Okay, well.
But we have like Like last year, we had, I think, in all the general fund, there was like 1.6 million not spent out of the entire budget.
Ms. Barber, can you tell me how much the budget has increased over last year's budget? The 65 compared to what last year was?
Do you want all funds or just the general fund?
Well, I want the number that compares to 65, so I think everything.
Okay. Well, the 60,
Was 63, right?
are you talking about?
This year's budget, 2016. And then, Mr. Hill, what's the projected increase in revenue for next year over this year?
See, 2016, you talking about general fund? Or everything?
I think we're talking everything,
Okay.
yeah.
2016 new revenue, I had 58.8. This year I have 61.1, so a little over 2 million.
Okay.
Okay. Let me take out the
If this
insurance.
discussion is going to go along for quite a while, I'm going to call for a break. 5 minutes. This may be all night.
I had the floor. Really? You adjourned in the middle of when I had the floor? I was in the middle. I don't think you can. Point of order?
Well, then go ahead and discuss.
She's got to go.
She can excuse herself.
We're going to go ahead and, J.P. Madison, I'm going to let you proceed with your line of questioning. And
I think I already asked questions.
Okay, so we put up on the screen, this is the worksheet that you can see that shows the carryover revenue for 2017. Let me scoot it over.
Can you make it bigger? I can't see that at
No.
all.
I mean, well,
I can't see it either.
is it on the TV?
Yeah.
No.
It's on, but it's still
It's still.
Let's buy bigger
Okay.
TVs. We have all this money.
So that is bigger. That's better.
Did you
This
laugh
is
at me?
updated. I updated it from tonight.
He just laughed
Right,
at us.
but I've updated it as we went.
Money.
So, okay, so I'll just give you breakdowns. Currently, as of what you approved tonight, the general budget, general fund is $27,400,723. And then we have a gel infusion of $616,198, which brings unappropriated reserves to $6.7 million. Compared to 2016, the general fund is actually under budget from the approved 2016 budget of $755,778. All total budgets, you are over the 2016 approved budget by $1,876,000, but that's including all funds. The general fund you are under from 2016. This is including your new revenue and your carryover.
So are you saying the budget's not less than it is? It's more, right? It's 1.8 more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there's an additional 2 million, probably 2.1, I think is what Mr. Hill said, in additional revenue projected.
That's correct.
But new revenue and budget didn't meet last year either. We just decided to sort of use reserves because I guess, and I think you've said this to us before, and I know J.P. Cochran has presented us stuff. We can do this in the short term. We cannot do it in the long term.
Eventually, it's going to catch up with us. I mean, we're good this year. I mean, in 2017, probably the year after. I mean, if sales tax, property tax keeps increasing, that's going to help that. Kick the can down the road another year or two after that. But I mean, carryover just unspent budgets plus the holdback, plus or minus revenues coming in. That's what I have left over at the end of the year.
Ms. Farber, do you have any idea of what basically is not being spent out of the budgets? you have
don't
an idea?
have those reports on me right now. That
Okay.
will be given to you Thursday,
Okay,
though.
well, then I'll look forward to that, because I think one of the, I think this is a short-term solution only. If we continue to go at the same rate, we'll be broke. It just won't work. And this is not a balanced budget. We can kid ourselves all we want about that. This is not a balanced budget. A balanced budget is matching revenue, new revenue, in my view, with expenses. And we're going to have the cushion to pay for things like unanticipated repairs and capital expenses, maybe a new juvenile courtroom. I mean, that's what we have to have money in savings for. But a budget of $65 million with 61 in new revenue coming in is not responsible financial management. So, but thank you both for humoring me with all my questions.
Okay, J.B. Patterson is next, and then go ahead. No, okay, J.B. Maxwell.
I just had a question. I know I'd asked you this the other night, but is a lot of that additional unspent revenue from this year's projected budget, is that from fuel cost that we did not? Because I know we had 2 or 3 fuel lines that we budgeted at the previously really high fuel rates. And last year we did not spend that much, so there was some there. And then we, with one exception, we almost budgeted about the same amount again for fuel as we did from the really high expense years. So is that where the bulk of this unspent budgeted revenue is actually popping back up from?
That would include in your carryover, and Bobby's actually is.
I mean, I don't know if it's fuel. As far as the budget line items, I don't know what they're not spending.
Right. He does the overall kind of total percentage of what the budgets are spending and just kind of calculates the carryover from that.
Well, based on what you emailed with the other night when I had a couple of questions, it certainly looks like there's several $100,000 that because we budgeted those lines at 2013, 2014 expenditure years, back when fuel costs were exceptionally much higher than they are now. That'd be my guess. So I think to J.P. Cochran's original motion earlier, I think that there may be several budgeted dollars there that in fact may not get spent for fuel that, hate to jump too far forward, but I think maybe softens this year's budget a little more than what it looks like if those funds aren't spent on fuel. Can I ask you, and I know I probably have access to this, and I'm hoping your computer's faster than me.
You're fine.
How much do we have budgeted for fuel this year total? Do you know that? Or even just the top 2 or 3 departments that are going to have that?
I think when I connected up here, I lost access.
That's okay.
So I don't have access. I can look and see if it's in my folder from when I sent it to you, but I'm not.
That's fine. I won't put you on the spot there. I thought you had easy access to it. So, okay. Thank you very much.
J.B. Harbison.
Y'all got to remember, we didn't do our quarterly sweeps this year. And it's because we didn't do our quarterly sweeps, all that money's ending up at the end of the year in excess money. I mean, because we're never at 100% employment, and, we budget for 100%, so that money's there. Plus, we've had an increase in sales tax. The sales tax has been over a year now since it was a year last November when it hit that point and started increasing, and we've had a full year of tax dollar increase that we haven't had previously. So to me, this is not unusual if you kept up with everything that was going on in the budget. Anyway, carryover, I feel we've got enough carryover plus the increase that we don't need to do a millage increase. If we do need to do a millage increase, I would maybe go for a 0.25, but not anything larger than that. Because as the revenue increases, as economic development in Northwest Arkansas grows, we're going to be at a point where we're going to be coming in here and Russell Hill is going to say, oh, we're going to have to do a millage decrease because we go over 10%, and this happened when I first came on the court. We reduced the millage by 0.2 of a mill. So anyway, that's where I think the money's coming from.
I'm going to take the liberty to say something. I'm not going to be here, so it will not be my worry, but it's always been my worry since day one of cutting the millage. That's when our money started going down just a little bit each time, just reduce. If you get your millage reinstated, you're not asking for a raise, you're just reinstating. You put that millage back in, then your revenue starts multiplying so that you've got the money on reserves and you don't have to fight this battle every year. And the people know that millage did not hurt a lot of people. It was a very small decrease to their budget. And I knew from the day one, when we did the millage reduction, it hurt this county. And we need to do something to raise that millage back. That's my spiel. I feel like I'm obligated to say that because I'm the county judge and I'm leaving, and I want to make sure I leave it in good shape. Now, we can continue discussion.
One thing I would like to say, I'm encouraged that the budgets do leave money at the end of the year, because if you do have 61 in new revenue and the budgets don't spend all their money and they get like 61 in expenses, then you're balanced. On paper, it may not be balanced, but these budgets are leaving money on the table, so to speak. So it's closer to balanced than this sheet shows. But still, to your point, that's correct.
Rick?
Thank you, Judge. Yeah, I've passed out my spreadsheets on the effect of what we're going to have in 2021. We have a new census. Cities expand, county contracts. We're just not growing. Our population between the last two censuses was about 400 to 600 people difference. So proportionately, we're getting less and less, and our split becomes less and less. So out in 2021, our revenue changes down $1.2 million. And as you go forward, one of the spreadsheets that I did, just a $500,000 buildup in reserve each year. That's all. That's when you look at the millage rate, it's like 0.00015. It's like it's not even a quarter mil. We'll give you that $500,000, but that projects out. If everything goes smooth and we don't have any surprises, like some tax money we didn't pay or some insurance money we have to pay to build the reserve or whatever else, sealing the deck, those are going to happen. They're going to happen every year. They've happened every year I've been here. We've got to do something to bring it back up. I don't like the idea of having to raise taxes, but when we reduced the taxes, at that point in time, we were sitting on a large reserve, and I felt it was appropriate. It was my first year on the court. Since then, we've started an animal shelter. We got away from the city contract with the city of Fayetteville. We went to our own shelter. We take a little over $2 million out of our reserves and build a really fine facility. It's spectacular, actually. And then we spend about $800,000 a year as opposed to about $200,000 that we were paying the city of Fayetteville. So each year we're draining about $600,000 just through our animal shelter operations. I'm not opposed to that because when it got right down to it, it was a safety issue for our people in the county, whether we have this shelter or not letting animals pack up. So we've had a draining effect just from one activity right there. We've had a couple other hits that were not budgeted for, and we really do have to look to the future on this. I would hope that we can try and build up the reserve about $500,000 a year just going forward each year just to make it easy. Looks like our projections here are not moving us anywhere off of where we're at. So, a little bit of an increase makes sense so that we don't have to do a big increase later down the road. If we do a little bit now, then each year, that little bit of mill, if it's 0.00015, that'd give you about $500,000. That'd be appropriate, and it's not. Folks are not going to feel it at the residential level. Folks that have businesses, large farms, they're going to feel a little bit more. But I think it's wise stewardship on our part to start looking to the future of where our reserves are. I know, Bobby, cash number is different than our budget number, but your cash number is really critical from the standpoint that you have to, we have major cash inflows in the spring and in the fall with our revenue for our property taxes, and then sales tax revenue kind of swims along. So even though we budget a full amount, the folks in those departments can spend it at any time. So you've got to have that cash. And you commented the last month that, we've hit that $10 million level, and you were kind of concerned. I took it in your tone that
anytime it goes under 10 million in the general fund,
you get a little heebie-jeebies.
Gives me pause, as they say, but.
Well, I understand that, but, it's our duty to make sure that you've got the cash. And I think that doing just a little bit with the millage is probably a wise thing for us to do. So I'll get off my soapbox now. Thank you.
J.P. Pond.
To kind of maybe simplify a little bit or get a picture of what Mr. Cochran was talking about, I believe at this day and time, we're a tenth of a mil brings us in about $330,000 a year. Is that not correct? Okay. What'd you say again?
359,909.53.
Okay, so it's over 330, but at $330,000 a year, when we reduced our millage by half a mil, that's 5/10. That's $1,650,000 a year. Okay, that we reduced it, and at the same time, or directly after that, we spent $2.1 million for an animal shelter that's costing approximately $660,000 a year. So really, if you look at it that way, that's kind of like we took 0.7 of a mil away from our stream of income. Not complaining about the animal shelter. I'm just saying that's just what we did. That's the numbers. We can't. There's not magic here. We can't. The reason we reduced it was because so many people on the court, both sides of the aisle, thought we had too much money in reserve and we were taking too much money away from the people. But since then, every year, we've had complaints that we're spending too much because our reserve is shrinking. We're spending too much because but it's kind of like we ignored the fact that we're the ones that created the shrinkage. And this millage that we can raise or lower, there's a 5 mil cap on that. Is that not correct? Okay, 5 mils. That's our cap. All that is, that's where the state legislature, or, they've constitutionally given us a small way to tweak our revenue flow. We can tweak it a little by increasing that a little or decreasing it a little up to a certain point. And if we refuse to use that, then all we can do is sit here and complain. That's all we can do. And I've got to say, I appreciate what Mr. Cochran is trying to do, what he's trying to explain to us. And I disagree with the county judge a little bit in the fact that when we reduced that, it did help me a little bit. My wife and me, it saved us enough money that it'll pay for half of it when she and I go out to dinner one time a year. So I've been rewarded some from that. But I hope we don't disagree any worse than that. I hope you don't take offense. Thank you.
J.P. Harbison. I agree with J.P. Cochran, but there's another issue that I wish this court would address, and this is the percentage. I think the percentage of the sales tax that we get needs to be frozen because we provide a lot of services to all of the citizens of Washington County. We, you know, everything in the county clerk's office, everything in the circuit clerk's office. You know, the sheriff's department helps the cities, the small cities. But I think that we need to get our legislators in here and say, we need a cap. It needs to be capped, I think it needs to be capped at the 18%, or maybe capped at 20%, that we get, you know, because and if we approach this correctly, as revenues increase, that percentage will be even more for the cities, but it gives us enough to carry on our functions without having to come back to the millage increase all the time. So I just think that all of us know some of these legislators. We really need to sit down and come up with a concrete plan of how to approach these people and try to get this frozen. I really do. I mean, because this is going to be an issue down the road.
We do have a motion on the floor. We have a second on it. So I think we need to go ahead now and take this to a vote.
Can
Yeah,
ask
go ahead. Go
okay.
ahead.
So the motion that's on the floor, I'm a little confused about, just to be on the safe side. So you had mentioned that you wanted to appropriate the $500,000 into the actual budget, or hold it out into the fund as we do our gel infusion and use it when needed when that fund has a shortfall.
I would like it budgeted so that it accurately or more accurately reflects what our reserves are. So this year we had a reserve number that was a little higher, and I thought, oh good, we finally made some progress towards my 8 to 10 million mark that I was looking for, and all of a sudden $800,000 off of that number, just like that. We had talked about it in the budgeting process last year, but we did not appropriate it in unappropriated reserves or budget for it. And I think that we budget for it, we get it out of sight, out of mind. If we don't spend it, it rolls into the next year. My feeling is we'll probably spend it.
Okay, and just a quick question. So currently how we do the gel infusion is, you can see right here that the jail is budgeted more than what they have in unappropriated reserves.
Right.
So we give them $616,000 to their fund to make them a zero balance. For general, this 27.4 is what's budgeted. We take out 616, which drops your unappropriated reserves. And the monthly reports I give you do the same thing. It reflects that. So in that sense, we would do it just as the jail. So you can see that reported, and then when the money is needed, we would do it by court order. It would already be there. Okay, then we would treat it just like the jail.
It goes by court order. You write the check when we need it.
Okay.
Now, if we needed more, you'll have to come back and ask for more.
Okay.
But that more accurately reflects what our unappropriated reserves are for us thinking down the road.
Perfect. So in that case, then we would be doing an infusion from the general fund into the insurance fund as needed when there's a shortfall.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Perfect.
And one point that you brought up that I'll also share, another thing that has brought down our unappropriated reserves is the infusions into the jail. After the jail bond money ran out, we started having to supplement the jail operations. Pretty big money each year, and that's taken us from that high of 19 million down to where we're at 6. Thank you.
So does everyone understand the motion on the floor and the second? Okay, Carly, call the roll.
Eva Madison? No. Sue Madison? Sorry. Joe Maxwell? Yes. Gary McHenry? Joe Patterson? Yes. Butch Pond?
Yes.
Bill Ussery?
Yes.
Daniel Balls?
Yes.
Harvey Bowman?
Yes.
Rick Cochran?
Yes.
Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Lisa Ecke?
Yes.
Ann Harbison?
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd?
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom?
It passed.
11 to 1. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now we are going to reserve the $500,000 in the insurance fund, and so that will be just like, okay.
And if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and give you an update. The 27.4 for the 2017 requested budgets, that's including the changes that were made tonight. So that is your updated changes for the general fund, which is bringing your unappropriated reserves to 6.2 million with the insurance infusion included.
So now, was there any discussion on the millage tonight?
Yeah,
Well, it didn't come to any conclusion.
I would be willing to go along with what Rick suggested, a .15. Was it a .1 or .15? Okay. Yeah, they just bring it a little bit, but not much, and it's not a Coke.
Do I have a second on that? Second. Okay, I have a motion and a second. So,
What is
everybody's
it?
leaving, nobody wants to vote.
I don't think we need to do this tonight. We don't have enough.
No, no, not now.
6, 7.
Eight.
Yeah, you have quorum.
Okay, let's take it to a vote then.
What are we voting on?
To increase the millage point.
No, that's not good.
One.
When the others are not here, Rick,
I'll withdraw my second.
Yes.
I think,
that's not
But-
fair.
I
That's
think
not fair to do
that
it.
to have others
That's
not
not
here
fair.
They left there
on
for
this,
a
we
reason.
should.
Well,
Well,
yeah, okay, we'll have to do it.
I understand, but I really,
Running out of time tonight.
I really think we need to have the full voice of the court
It's
on
only 8
this.
o'clock.
It's a serious deal.
That is, because
can bring it
Thursday
up
night,
every
you got
week.
to vote on
Do
it.
it Thursday
We can bring
night.
it up Thursday night, and, you know.
Well,
Judge-
need to
you have to
discuss it.
set your millage Thursday night by
We
law.
can do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
We can do it.
Right, as long as we make it by midnight, we're good.
Just nod your head, yes.
You must set your millage by Thursday night.
Midnight.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge.
No, surely.
By
I'll make
the
a
end of
motion we
Thursday
adjourn.
night.
Second.
You have a motion and a second to adjourn.
To adjourn, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.